So welcome everyone to Commissioner Calvert's Initiative to Prevent Homelessness press conference. I want to say just initially before we start that Commissioner Calvert has always been a proactive leader in addressing homelessness in Bexar County, and that's why we're here today. Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the work you do every day. Thank you, Councilwoman Terri Castillo. Thank you, the Town Twin Village Mark, my Saint Mark, I love to call you, and everyone from Under the Bridge, as well as Corazon and Molly. Thank you. We wouldn't be here without your team helping to advocate. Thank you so much. So we're here today to give some insight and some feedback on the housing crisis that's affecting our most vulnerable. For those of us who are from San Antonio, I think we all know over the last few years, we are witnessing more people unhoused in the streets than we've ever seen. They are mothers, they are veterans, they are working families, they are elders without shelter, safety, or stability. And our emergency systems are overwhelmed. Our nonprofits are overwhelmed. Our neighborhoods have been strained. And too many of our fellow residents are forced to navigate life without the support that they need. The policies being proposed at the national level, we look at the budget vote that happened last night. This is a very timely conversation because it is setting us up for a crisis on our streets. To confront this crisis, I'm proposing a 7-year plan to create 3,000 new permanent supportive housing units, ideally in 250 clusters, just like Town Twin Village has been leading the way, to support neighborhood integration. And in tandem, we must scale more transitional housing options as well, whether it be a pallet home, affordable senior housing, owner-occupied rehab funds, because the most affordable home you have is the one you can age in place and the one you have now, emergency shelter units, rapid rehousing, and clean tent villages like they do in Denver, to serve an additional 3,000 individuals who are currently unsheltered with low barrier options. While the 2024 point in time census of those who are experiencing homelessness registers at about 3,372 individuals experiencing homelessness on that particular night it was recorded, that snapshot grossly undercounts the full extent of the problem. Just look at the numbers at Haven for Hope. 9,800 people interacted with their services last year in Councilwoman Castillo's district. In a county discussion last year, Haven CEO, former CEO now, projected that an additional 6,000 individuals could become homeless by 2030. So 9,800 estimated needing help just with their facility alone, and an additional 6,000 on top of that. So we're talking about an order of 15, 16 plus thousand folks. So that's an increase that could triple today's point in time numbers if we fail to expand housing capacity. And I felt, after hearing that, and after hearing advocates like the ones that are here today, who advocate day in and day out, that it was time to sound the alarm and elevate the conversation to the community and ask, is this the type of crisis we want to tackle after it's too late? According to Close to Home, key drivers of this trend include a growing population, rising rents, with the average cost of a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment rising approximately 15% between 2020 and 2024. At the same time, consumer prices in San Antonio have surged more than 16%. Wages have not kept pace, and according to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies, 27% of households out there today are cost burdened, meaning they're spending more than 50% of their income on housing. Families are barely hanging on, and they're slipping through the cracks. And everyone knows these tariffs are coming in, costs are going to be even harder on people. And these cracks may soon not have federal rental assistance, which the county and the city and many governmental entities have relied on to support are unhoused. So let's be real. Real solutions are not cheap in this matter. Permanent supportive housing units cost an estimated $150,000 to $200,000 each. Pallet shelters and other transitional options could cost $7,500 to $25,000 per unit. But I believe the cost of inaction is even greater. Bexar County's University Health System spends $100 million to uncompensated care annually, much of it preventable ER visits by those who are unhoused. Jail cycling for minor infractions costing $70 to $90 per person without breaking the cycle of homelessness. The city of San Antonio spends more than $20 million each year responding to homelessness through the law enforcement and EMS. We've been doing these inhumane sweeps for a number of years. They are not working. Investing in housing, particularly permanent supportive housing, which reduces jail bookings, ER visits, 911 calls, it's fiscally prudent and morally essential. So to support these goals, I'm proposing the creation of a county land bank. When I first came to Commissioner's Court, I was able to pass a county land bank through the Texas House. It did not pass through the Senate, but we've got to give that a running start again. Let's assemble and repurpose underutilized public land for housing development. These master planned, trauma-informed communities would serve as a foundation for stability and include mental health care and substance use disorder treatment centers, on-site workforce development and job training programs, food and nutrition services, transportation access, and childcare, and primary health care support. To finance this vision, I'd like to support exploring increasing first the city's housing bond and also moving the county in that same direction. Mayor Ivy Taylor, Leila Powell, and Cheryl Scully and I met around 2016, and I proposed to Mayor Ivy Taylor at that time that the city of San Antonio create a housing bond. That was a $22 million first shot, more conservative than what I had wanted, but I told the neighborhoods that we would expand that housing bond in the years to come, and folks like Councilwoman Terri Castillo put on the ballot $150 million. But we know Austin already invested $350 million, so I believe we've got to deal with our poverty and put a $450 million number out there. This is really a generational investment to make housing affordability a reality for all Bexar County residents. And I think it's important for us to stand up and build local momentum for these kinds of initiatives. We must acknowledge the growing threat from Washington, D.C., the recent federal proposals. Most of folks are not sitting around like I am looking at what's going on, but the recent federal proposals would eliminate the home program and investment partnerships, halting affordable housing. The HUD budget would be cut by 44%. 44%. Halting affordable housing construction like the Fortuna Court project with Habitat for Humanity. In 2024, Bexar County got about $723,000 to help people from this federal program. They're also talking about defunding something I cut my teeth in politics with my family and in my neighborhood. I grew up in areas that were CDBG eligible. And right now, they're talking about defunding the Community Development Block Grant, which supports infrastructure in the areas that need it the most. It supports social services in 26 Bexar County cities and unincorporated areas, and of course the city of San Antonio. And in 2024, Bexar County received $2.3 million of funding, part of which we use to help emergency rapid rehousing of folks who are on our streets. So these proposals, if you think it's bad now, looking at more of the unhoused not having the support they need, it's obvious Washington is going to make it worse. These proposals would dismantle the country's most important and significant effective safety nets, and just as local demand is increasing. So I think it's important, local leadership, local organizations, our faith-based community, people who care about this issue, and let's be clear, UTSA poll put this issue right at the top three, both housing and homelessness, both at the top. we've got to rise where federal support is falling. To that end, it's important, if these things are going to be cut, Councilwoman, we may have to be the bridge year in this particular budget. We may have to put aside as much money as the feds did into our local budgets. These are things we have to talk about. Now, the Senate may end up doing something that helps us out, but we just have to think about these things. So as we expand services, let's keep equity as our compass. And I think communities where I represent in Precinct 4, which is downtown, southeast, south central, northeast, east, we've shouldered the disproportionate, the west side too, we've shouldered a disproportionate share of social service infrastructure without receiving equivalent investments in opportunity. No one side of town should have to carry the full burden. Every area must be included in this solution. And this is going to require coordination across the city, county, and state nonprofit sectors. And much like we met during the pandemic, where in the pandemic, the city and the county were talking about how do we take these federal funds and make smart investments and leverage them, we need to do the same thing in this social net slashing. So as we begin the summer budgets, every elected leader needs to increase our resources to the tsunami of homelessness that will be seen in our streets should these budgets happen. This should include an increase to directly compensate for the loss of home and CDBG. And I should also mention that tomorrow I will be meeting with the Bexar County medical examiner to take a hard look at how we count heat-related deaths in our county. And I want to thank Councilwoman Castillo and Councilman McKee Rodriguez for shepherding the CCR through the City of San Antonio's council to back us up in that regard. This isn't just a public health conversation, the heat-related deaths, it is a housing conversation as well. Because when the mercury rises, those without shelter are the first to suffer, and far too often, they're the first to die. So this moment demands more than goodwill intentions. It demands political will. So let's all step up. And I want to introduce someone who has a great track record. I'm proud to stand beside her today. She is the councilwoman from District 5, the one and only Terri Castillo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councilmember Terri Castillo, very proud to represent the residents of District 5 and extremely honored to be here in community, whether it's with County Commissioner Calvert, who's taking on this issue head on alongside community advocates like Molly as well as Trounton Village. As the commissioner has highlighted, we know this is going to take cross collaboration. And whether you live in District 5 or Precinct 4, we have a shared responsibility to our shared constituency to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our residents. As mentioned with the UTSA study and evident in the San Antonio 2024 and 2023 budget survey, what continues to surface to the top for the priority of San Antonio residents is ensuring that we're providing access and services to our unhoused community, as well as making investments in affordable housing. No doubt many San Antonio residents are one paycheck away from being out on the streets. And what we've seen at the Texas Ledge is that there's also policy and bills being passed and discussed to remove due process for renters. And what we see at the federal level is a reduction in investment in CDBG funding and affordable housing projects, which means is less access to deeply and truly affordable housing. We need to ensure that we're prioritizing investments in housing that San Antonio residents can afford to live in. Too many teachers, too many servers, and too many unhoused folks looking for resources are struggling to find a safe, sustainable, and quality living unit. And that's something that is going to take collaboration with the county and the city of San Antonio to ensure that we're being strategic with our limited dollars and being intentional. As the commissioner has mentioned, we must put our money where our mouth is in terms of meeting the needs of San Antonio and Bexar County residents. This isn't a district-specific issue. This is a city of San Antonio and Bexar County issue that's going to need that cross-collaboration and partnership with our faith-based partners and nonprofits who are doing that work. It's evident with the Haven for Hope numbers, which is housed in District 5, where they are busting at the seams with unhoused families. We're talking single mothers and children that are looking for access to safe spaces to be housed and find shelter. We have a responsibility as leaders of the city and the county to ensure that we're creating and prioritizing those needs that residents have been calling in surveys whether it's through UTSA and the city of San Antonio. And that's why I'm grateful for the leadership of County Commissioner Calvert for ensuring that we're continuing to have this conversation. That's a priority for our shared constituency. But no doubt we must continue to advocate for a City of San Antonio bond sooner than later and increase that amount to ensure that we're meeting the needs. Now we're competing with budget cuts and then reductions over with tenant protections at the state level. So this is a crisis that we've seen, and as the commissioner mentioned, a tsunami of evictions and unhoused individuals that we may be seeing. And we need to ensure that we're putting in the work before the disaster hits. That's leadership, ensuring that we're putting in the mechanisms and the resources in place rather than responding after the fact. But it's going to take all of us coming together and ensuring that we're listening to those that have the lived experience of what specific shelter experiences have been like and what it's like being out on the street. I am extremely grateful for the leadership of Molly for ensuring that we don't forget the voices and the impact of failing to act for our unhoused community members. And that's why alongside community, we filed a council consideration request to explore how the City of San Antonio's Metro Health Department can collaborate with the county on how we're tracking heat-related deaths in the county and the City of San Antonio. Because whether it's from a place of compassion or from a place of out of sight, out of mind, our responsibility and the next step is providing shelter and access for individuals to be sheltered and housed. And this is going to take, again, going back to being a shared responsibility, is it can't be one area absorbing everything, right? This is something that we know all throughout the city and all throughout the county is needed and necessary. So it's going to take leadership of not passing the buck. And of course, as the commissioner mentioned, the political will to ensure that we're putting the priorities and needs of San Antonio and Bexar County residents first. And I would be remiss if I didn't highlight, right, as we have these larger conversations, like with Project Marvel, for example, over and over again, budget cycle and budget cycle, town hall and town hall, what we hear from residents is the need to tackle housing insecurity, whether it's through our home rehab programs, the construction of deeply affordable housing, investing in social housing. That's been the priority. So I think we have to sit with our priorities as a council and really evaluate what are the priorities of our resident. Is it a vanity project downtown or meeting the needs of the folks who are living paycheck to paycheck and investing in the City of San Antonio? So just really grateful again for the commissioner's leadership and for taking on the initiative of land banking. District 5 and all throughout the urban core, there's so many issues with vacant lots. Whether these vacant lots oftentimes serve as a host of so many issues, and by ensuring that there's a land bank and a mechanism in place to turn those vacant lots into productive property, will not only get folks housed, it'll alleviate so many public safety concerns for our neighbors. So just grateful for the leadership of the partners doing the work, whether it's Town Twin Village, Molly, who just continues to ring the bell and sound the alarm that we need to act faster with urgency and do more. And then of course the commissioner for always keeping the priorities of his constituency and the residents of San Antonio at the forefront of his decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much. That's brilliant comments you made, and that's why we respect you so much, why I really love watching your work on on the city council. You're unbossed and focused on the needs of your community, and that's to be admired. It's rare in politics. San Antonio, Bexar County was the last city in in Texas to have permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is where you have all the wraparound services from primary care to dental care, mental health care to food to job training, all in one location. Sam Shelter has recently embarked on some permanent supportive housing, but Town Twin Village attacked that issue because of seniors were the fastest growing group of folks who were on the streets experiencing homelessness without a place to live. I'll never forget a senior at the District 2 Senior Center with near tears in her eyes saying, "I don't know where I'm going to live. I can't find an affordable place to live." We have a silver tsunami of baby boomers who are going to need places to live. I submit to you, just as Boston in 1980 did their first housing bond around senior housing, the senior housing can be a key to opening the door for more housing, getting voters to approve it. And obviously, all politicians know average age of a voter is 65, so it's a powerful tool to open the door for these conversations. But it wasn't, this group has put a lot of time and energy and collaboration and funding. I think around $25 million for Town Twin Village, 250 permanent supportive housing homes. At the federal level, the president's budget has said that they are getting rid of all funding for permanent supportive housing. These groups need to be replicated by literally 30 times. Literally 30 times. We need 30 more Town Twin Villages in order to keep up with that stat that the CEO of Haven for Hope mentioned in Commissioner's Court. I want to give Mark Wittig an opportunity to say a few words about the importance of permanent supportive housing. Thank you, Mark, for coming.
Thank you for having me. About 5.5 years ago, we visited Commissioner Calvert and visited the city, and they were very supportive to try something new, and we started raising money for Town Twin Village. We started finding other pockets across the nation that served that we didn't even know existed when we started the journey. I did a tour this morning from a national speaker who was at the prayer breakfast this morning, and our commissioner was there. And he deals with homelessness worldwide, helping create models, and I wanted him to see Town Twin. And he got to see people who live on the campus and see them smiling and interacting, and who were not hiding as often people do when they're homeless, especially if you're female. And he was very impressed. He went to the Dorothy Day House where we serve, where it was a house of hospitality for both those who live campus and those who are 50 and older who come for the day, and got to experience that. He got to see our medical building, and we toured some of the campus. And our model is a little bit unique. We pull players together, but the reality is that the need is far greater than Town Twin Village. This afternoon I'll be visiting a 57-year-old man who's at University Hospital who just had part of his foot amputated, and he's dealing with psychologically with that he's a different person now, but he's happy that he's getting help. And people on the street, they're very much at risk physically, but also for their bodies, you know, from a health. And you know, there's something. All the great religions, they all have the second commandment in one way or the other. I've seen church where they have how they say the second commandment, you know, love your neighbor, but it's there. And it's just pitiful that we have people suffering in San Antonio and elsewhere. And we've created a first step. There's other models. Town Twin is just one, but we've got to help these folks. By the grace of God, it's not us there, but it could be somebody we know. So this is a serious deal. The good news is there's hope. There's examples, and let's get after it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge that, again, we would not have this press conference and this elevation. And I think the timing is important because of what's going on federally without the advocacy of a number of community advocates. And representing some of those advocates, Molly, I'd like to give you an opportunity to say a few words. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Holler and Commissioner Calvert, for responding to the county constituents' severe concerns on our unhoused current situation in housing, mental health treatment center insecurities, and for addressing essential topics like how the medical examiner's office is currently not collecting needed data recording of those who die on our county and city streets. Various strong women of different frontline organizations attended meetings with Commissioner Calvert, from Yanawana Reladios to Harlandale Sunshine Food Pantry, and others in the community who has had experience working for Haven for Hope and other city agencies. And myself, a chronically homeless person who periodically faces the fear of being unhoused when I lose a job or medical benefits, or I lose the game of bank overdrafts when I borrow more than I should to pay that CPS bill or internet bill needed for work. Though we are in different work areas for the unhoused communities, we are collectively a force to be reckoned with, because we all have a deep, passionate, foundation born from our respective backgrounds and experiences. As a chronically homeless person myself, I am thankful that Commissioner Calvert is taking steps, and Terri Castillo are taking steps to resolve our concerns. Each of us has provided extremely valuable, raw, and real input. What we see and experience in the streets as we work with the unhoused residents in our city and county. I'm wearing all black to mourn the continuous loss of lives of senior citizens, veterans, women, and children. We all collectively know who are dying from the heat-related deaths, who are living on the streets, constantly being told to move along by our law enforcement rather than being given actual options to get real help, being referred to overwhelmed, overcrowded, and unsafe shelter-in places that we have around the city, or go missing. And some frontline advocates of other agencies, they've lost their clients. They don't know where they're at because of the constant county and city police orders to just keep moving, move along. I mourn for Patricia Lawrence, who walked up to the city tower building during our last winter's cold temperatures because the city refused to open up warming shelters unless it got down to 32 degrees for a prolonged period of time, which hardly ever happens. Thank you, Commissioner Calvert, for working with the city council persons of the recent CCR that are bringing up for discussion and voting to address these deaths that happen on the streets. But today, I mourn no more. As advocates for the unhoused community, which we all are sitting back here too, we have standing back here, we have finally gotten the attention. Sorry, I thought I was gonna make it through without. Sorry. As advocates for the unhoused community, we have finally gotten the attention of our elected government on a county level and city level to assist us and guide us in obtaining and receiving urgent, direly needed help where no help exists anywhere, federally or citywide. Thank you, Harlandale Sunshine Pantry, and Megan, a former employee of Haven for Hope, for sticking with me to the end of these 4 meetings with Commissioner Calvert and helping provide needed and expedient helping me provide needed expedient assistance. I am positive there's going to be a lot more meetings coming up. Thank you, Maria from Yanawana Ubaladio, Maria Antoinette Barisabal, Rebecca Flores, Mutual Aid with 2 O's, and others who have provided their constant support and consultation with the Commissioner that helped us start our meetings. And to the community, thank you for your nonstop call-ins, your emails, your persistent requests, asking our elected officials to address this issue of human sweeps and housing insecurities in genuine ways where nobody else is. And thank you to the single parents household who express desire to be more involved but aren't able to due to child rearing obligations. I hear you, and I thank you for supporting today's statement as well. Molly.
Thank you very much. That was an incredibly powerful and eloquent speech. Thank you so much for what you said today. I will open it up to any questions from the press, if you have any questions for any of the people here.
Can you speak to the land bank? Does that, I mean, we're in the bottom of another recession, 2 years to go. Is that contingent?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get a bill through the legislative process. I believe that as part of the ongoing work that has to happen, we've got to get some additional support at the governor level, because typically it's in the gubernatorial level that all things rise or fail. So we have to kind of have a leading startup, and frankly, it's politics. I make sausage. And so part of that sausage will probably be working with the developers who build these things, who have relationships with the governor, to help them understand not only should they let these bills get through the Senate and the other bodies, but they should be supporting these permanent supportive housing units with mental health, because it was the state who slashed so many institutions over the decades. But these are really tough political battles. The unhoused don't have lobbyists. They don't have campaign contributions to throw around. They've got to have people power to make a difference. And so we can make sausage with some folks who have a little coin in their pocket, but we're going to need more advocates to go on busloads to Austin and really say stop passing the buck and thinking that you can do this with a sweep. You've got an obligation beyond just a state hospital contribution, but hundreds of millions of dollars to support the wraparound services and the health and human services. We have more money in the state rainy day fund than every state in the United States combined. They have so much money, they've now had to file an amendment to raise the cap on the rainy day fund. So they've been banking money, letting the bankers make all that money, when we need to use that money to finance housing and shelter and alternative supportive services. So anyway, I went on a little bit of
I've
tangent.
got a follow unless someone else is up for the question.
I am also working on a story part of the road too. So this goes for both of you guys. Vacant homes, and you're in San Antonio, vacant homes, an issue, you know, a lot of those that are unhoused go into these homes to find shelter, of course. Just your thoughts on that. I know a lot of the neighbors in the area, specifically in your district, they believe, you know, that you're correct. This is up to the property owners. They're also saying we definitely have a homelessness issue, and they're just hoping these homelessness find the right things that the city's providing them. Do you think this is the right step? And just your thoughts.
Yeah, so District 5 has a high concentration of vacant lots and vacant structures, and to ensure that we're providing safe communities and access to deeply affordable housing is going to take a multi-pronged approach. One, ensuring that we're holding absentee landlords and land speculators accountable, and ensuring that there's accountability for code compliance having to routinely go out there and maintain the property, because that costs taxpayer dollars to take care of someone else's property. Further, we need to continue to have the conversation about how we expand our city's homeless outreach team. Each council district has one homeless outreach coordinator, and that is unmanageable for any outreach worker, any social worker to maintain the amount of connecting unhoused individuals to city services. And that's why it's really important that we continue to have this larger conversation, one, about accountability, and two, how do we turn these vacant lots and or vacant structures into productive property. But there needs to be the accountability component, right? If someone's land speculating, causing a nuisance because they intend to cash in down a few years later. And then also folks who are just not maintaining their property. And there are investments that the city of San Antonio has made with the Mexican American Unity Council to help those who may have issues with clearing the title. So if you are in that circumstance that it's not that you're being a land speculator or an absentee property owner, it's just you're trying to tease out the title clearance, the city of San Antonio has made investments in helping clear that title. But what we need to continue to do as a council is prioritize those calls and concerns for vacant lots and structures. And again, that looks like ensuring with the upcoming city council budget that we are prioritizing investment in the Metro Health Department, in the Department of Human Services, to ensure that our homeless outreach workers have the support and resources necessary. But beyond that, in the case that an unhoused individual does want access to services and shelter, we have to have that unit, that space, that bed. And right now, all of our nonprofit homeless providers are busting at the seams at capacity, not accepting new clients. So the solution is what we're here today to discuss with this press conference, is ensuring that we're being strategic with city and county dollars to provide that shelter, that unit for unhoused folks.
Yeah, ditto everything the councilwoman said. Let me just say that the most, I think, effective answer to dealing with the issues that residents have of vacant properties is what we're doing today. We had for a long time in policy the blind leading the blind. We had a lot of elected leaders who didn't know about permanent supportive housing. We put for too long all of our eggs in one basket, one form of transitional housing, and there are folks who have needs for assisted living, like permanent supportive housing supports, who are not able necessarily to just be on their own. There's all kinds of needs in this realm. So I implore the press to do more stories about these other forms of solutions, because through those stories, we empower the community with solutions that have worked around the country. Like I said, we were the last city in Texas to do permanent supportive housing. So now we're playing catch up. So I appreciate very much all the folks who are here who are part of this conversation. And I think the most important thing we do is empower people that we are not helpless. We are not the first city to go through it. We're just one of the least resource cities in dealing with it. And it's time to catch us all up. Greg, you had another
Sure, yeah,
follow-up.
just to follow up, going back to the heat caused and heat contributed deaths. So deceleration's been writing about that for about 3 years. 2 cases we've profiled in depth. Albert Garcia, who we spent a year working with other organizations like Yanawana, a lot of frontline workers to find housing to begin with. He died after 3 weeks at our hottest summer on record, 2023. Jessica Witzel, her core body temperature at that 5 Points gas station collected by EMS workers was 126 degrees, which we talked to former coroners who said it's the highest they've ever seen, and it was a classic case study of a heat-caused death. Even though the medical examiner says they track heat-related deaths, they didn't list heat as part of that autopsy that we reviewed and reported on. They only listed drugs. She was not a known drug user. She was on bipolar medication, which presents itself as meth in the blood. So we've had a lot of problems with the way that process has worked. I'm in the interest of investment. We're talking about, hey, we're going to have to put up this bond. We're going to have to invest to do a good job at heat surveillance, so we know how we're losing people, so we know how to help better. Is that going to be part of the bond package? Do we need an investment? Can we get that done this summer, do you think?
I've got the meeting tomorrow with the medical examiner to understand where they're coming from. But I think far too often what I've noticed about San Antonio, because we're such a big tourist city over the decades, is that there's often a feeling from the establishment that we just can't tell the truth about these things. But the truth is, Mother Nature is moving us into a desert. Spectrum News had a special that showed that the average summer temperature in San Antonio will be 108. That's equivalent to the United Arab Emirates, which means our climate is becoming a desert. So you already see Arizona's not embarrassed. Arizona still has tourists, and Maricopa County keeps track of their heat-related deaths. It's just a reality that you've got a warm climate, and you need to document these things better. I don't know if it's a work issue, a staffing issue, equipment issue. I don't know, but I'm going to try to delve into what is the issue. I think most of us see this as a pretty easy layup, but let's not forget that while we're getting those documented deaths in the medical examiner's office, we should also be making better use of planting trees in our urban core. Frankly, no fault of the councilwoman, but the city's tree mitigation program and implementation is not done well. I'll give you a personal example. I live in a zip code that's eligible for a free tree. And it came to me about this time a year ago, when we all know the optimal planting season is October to March. So it came to me on the trees came to me on a metal flatbed that were baking the tree, and then I had to nurse the tree, which it eventually died because we had a hot summer. That's the kind of waste that is happening, and we need to figure out how to better deploy resources. That's why I proposed the Link project to cool down the heat island of the baseball stadium that's going to end up being a concrete cooking bowl in our downtown core. It's going to raise the temperature of the downtown corridor when that concrete is up for our unhoused. I said we need to cool it down, use that air conditioner condensate from the hotels, and recycle that water and get those trees planted downtown, green it up. We can turn it around. I don't want you to think this is an endless story. Medellin decreased their average temperature by 2 degrees by planting trees. So we need to be doing things that are, lowering greenhouse gases, providing shade, and also providing protection for the unhoused.
Yeah, in terms of the council consideration request that we drafted in collaboration with community is working its way through the bureaucratic process, and what the council consideration request is seeking is for city staff to analyze what are other practices, and the commissioners already cited and community cited those examples in which track heat-related deaths. And ultimately, city staff is going to present to council what policy changes, if there's a need for financial support to implement the policy recommendations, but that process is working its way, but it needs to run parallel with the housing conversation about where housing bond dollars are going to go. How soon can we have that conversation about a bond? Because 2027 will be here sooner than later, but it's a long way away. And when we talk about the RFP process and allocating those dollars to projects, we're looking into like 2034, 35 in terms of the construction of projects with those dollars, and the time is now. There is an urgency for us to continue to invest and start breaking ground in terms of projects. So I believe that both are going to be running parallel at the same time, the advocacy of needing investment dollars in affordable housing, as well as the policy working its way through the council process.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
While we see a willingness to work with nonprofits and activists and mutual aid organizations in the city that speak on behalf and advocate on behalf of the houseless issue and housing insecurity in San Antonio, what are the short-term solutions that are within your power that you have considered or that you're moving to when it looks like creating a less traumatizing environment for our houseless folks by pushing the police to end their human sweeps in the short term so that we have folks that survive and they can make it to these long-term goals? Because as you have said, the city and the county and the state processes are very long and significant and are burdensome. And there is an immediate need. And how can we meet that immediate need with the creative use of the power that we currently hold, which I would ask of you.
Yes, if I may add, in terms of how we can continue to collaborate, is oftentimes when the city of San Antonio hosts its budget town halls, that's a great opportunity for city leadership and your community members to hear what your priorities are, what your goals, and where you believe your shared public dollars should be invested in. And oftentimes left from the conversation of these public town halls is that narrative and support for our unhoused neighbors. So I think getting plugged into those current processes, as well as serving on boards and commissions, right? For you and your community to share y'all's values and vision and where the city council should steer resources is really important, right? So getting into the process in terms of serving on boards and commissions, participating in the budget survey and town halls. And I understand, right, what I hear from community and being a housing organizer before being a councilwoman was that process is just to check a box. But that data, those conversations, raising your hand and sharing that we need to be taking a different approach in terms of serving unhoused folks is very impactful, very powerful, and it's something that I encourage folks continue to do if we haven't already.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that if you were to travel with me to my neighborhood association meetings, when we have conversations about what are residents to do when they are experiencing folks who are unhoused in their neighborhood, I'm not telling them to call the police. I'm telling them call Corazon Ministries, call some of these other agencies. They have great relationships and are able to work in a much more constructive way than our law enforcement. So I think we fundamentally, as elected leaders, and I don't think most elected leaders today have that attitude, but I worked on an issue, human trafficking, where I was head of a global human rights organization in Boston, where I was one of like 10 organizations in the United States working on human trafficking back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And now there are thousands of groups. And now the paradigms have shifted. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we're better than we were 20 years ago, right? And so we again have to empower people about calling law enforcement is not the solution. We've got to build housing. We've got to support organizations that have great programs for those who are unhoused. And it's a lot of work. It's a culture change. That the first thing folks do is pick up the phone and call law enforcement. So we've got work to do. Bear in mind, our sheriff runs the sheriff's department. While I have a voice, while I've helped create the SMART unit, which is our mental health unit, I don't have the power to manage his officers day to day. And police chief is the police chief, and while the councilwoman has policy, and she's one of 11, and we're sometimes outvoted. We're ahead of our time, but sometimes we're outvoted today. And eventually they'll come around, but we all need to be in this. And I think my point in saying is that advocacy, community awareness, community buy-in is really important to move the ball in the direction I think your question is leading us. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you, Councilwoman, for being an all-star on the council, and I appreciate your great words today. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great afternoon. Thank you, Councilwoman. I know you probably have